One of the most important decisions we make every season is who we hire to fulfill our mission and care for our campers and their families. Along with being one of the most important, it's also one of the most stressful. How do we get our vision across, ask the right questions, help our potential staff members feel supported during the process, and make the best decisions for our program? Join us today. We're diving in. Camp leaders, win back your time to what matters most, your campers. Bolin's comprehensive accounting, back office solutions, and tech enabled team free up your staff to focus on your mission. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. Remember what sparked your passion for camp? UltraCamp knows it's about the people, not the paperwork. That's why they built a platform to simplify your camp management. Learn more at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Welcome to Camp Code, a podcast brought to you by Go Camp Pro. For us in the world of summer camp, there is nothing more important than well-researched, well-planned, well-thought-out, and well-prepared leadership training. It's at the crux of all we do. It's how we deliver a safe, exciting, kind, supportive, growth-filled experience for our campers and their families. It's how we have our staff return year after year. It's how we make the biggest impact on the world around us. Join us today as we delve into the world of staff training, the good, the hard, and everything in between. We're all in this together. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited for our next two podcasts. We not only have staff training guru Kim Aycock joining us, we also have Ruby back. So it's going to be an amazing conversation. But before we get started, let's just take a moment to introduce ourselves. Gab, can we start with you, please?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Gabrielle Rail, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the camp directors at Camp Woro. I'm actually at Camp Woro right now, so that's quite lovely. And Camp Woro is an all-girls camp, and we focus on creating a positive environment for gender minorities.
Thanks, Gab. And Ruby.
Hey everyone, I'm Ruby Compton. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Chief Exploration Officer of Ruby Outdoors, which is an organization that supports camps and outdoor programs through training and whatever else they need. And I'm phoning in from Western North Carolina about 2.5 weeks post Helene. So I am going to refer to some things today in reference to what I've seen happen with disaster response because there's a lot of carryover with camp.
Great. We are so thrilled to have you here and so thrilled you're safe. And Kim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Aycock. She, her are my pronouns, and I'm coming to you from the coast of North Carolina on the other side of the state from my dear friend Ruby. And I represent Kimspiration LLC, which is I like to say that I like to develop young people with the skills that robots can't do, and that's my superpower. And also consultant with all things camp. So if I don't know the answer, chances are I know someone who would know the answer to help you with any kind of situation that you may find yourself in. So, and I'm super thrilled to be with this wonderful team today. So.
Well, I am so excited to have both of you here, and of course, Gabrielle. And I'm Beth Allison, former camp director and executive director. I'm now a camp consultant. I am co-owner of Camp Hacker and Go Camp Pro. My pronouns are she and her. And as always, my big passion is intentional leadership training. As we record this episode today, it is Canadian Thanksgiving. And after a wonderful day with family yesterday, I'm still counting my blessings and I'm so thankful to have the gang back together, plus the amazing Kim Aycock. And today I get to pick the brains of these three wise and talented women as we share with you our best tips and ideas for making the hiring process more productive and effective for both you and the staff that you're hiring for 2025. So Ruby, let's start with you. It makes me so happy to say that again. But Ruby, how do you think hiring has changed in the last 5 years? What do you think we need to be mindful of? And I'm not looking for solutions. I just want observations, please.
Yeah, so my first one coming from a disaster area is that our pressures on time are so much more abundant than I think they were even 5 years ago, even though the internet has not changed. I didn't have internet for about a week, and a lot of this area was disconnected. And it was amazing to me how different my pace of life was, just not having access to the internet. And so if you think about, you know, before the internet was really in your life, which again is also not a thing that our staff know and remember, but some of us do remember that. Like you got invitations in the mail to go to birthday parties that were weeks away, right? And now it's on any given Friday night, on Thursday afternoon, you could have 6 invitations to go to 6 different places with 6 different groups of people, or you could just Google search for this is all the things that are going on. So we have to remember that our staff have almost an endless abundance of options for work, and like we all know analysis paralysis very well as well. So thinking about how we can help people navigate that, I don't want to get into solutions, but that's something to consider, and just recognize there's a lot of noise out there that we're trying to break through.
Excellent start. Thank you. Gab, what about you? What changes have you seen in the last 5 years?
I think for me is I think actually there's a reactionary position that a lot of camp directors have, which is I'm nervous I'm not going to keep my staff. I'm nervous they're not going to show up. I'm nervous that they're not going to be capable enough. And I think that it's causing some how we approach staff members. It almost is creating a reactionary opposite effect that we want of creating sort of welcoming and inviting and supportive. And that's just from having, and I don't, it's not intentional. Obviously there's nobody I think in that's going into camping that doesn't want our staff to feel welcomed and to feel supported. But what I'm seeing is that there's already an anticipation that it's going to be hard to find staff, and there's already this anticipation, and it's overwhelming. And I think that that energy is also going out there. And I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. I just mean how we use language when we're approaching staff, or even it's almost defeated. Like sometimes when I'm brainstorming with other camp professionals and we're talking about what are different ways that we can approach this generation, there's already a defeated mentality that it's just not going to work. And and we, as camp people, we've always had to adjust. We've always had to adapt to generation. We work with children. That's what we do. But there's a sense of no matter what I'm going to do, it's not going to be good enough. And so I think it makes it tough also to believe in trusting your own instincts, because it's creating already almost a barrier. That's one thing I'm seeing.
That's an interesting take on it. Thank you. And what about you, Kim? What are you seeing?
Well, I think it's interesting because I think if we were to all get back together 5 years from now, we could have the same conversation, right? Because it's always, I mean, seriously, like so I think
yeah,
we'll get into the solution part of this in a little bit, but just I think people are having to really realize that we can't do things the same way that we're, today that we did last year necessarily, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. And so we're having to really take a hard look at those things and make some adjustments based on all the different factors that are playing into getting those wonderful emerging leaders to join our teams, right? I also think we're not, and I actually had a camp director who, was texted me last spring, and she was just really, really frustrated. And the word that kept coming up was commitment. Like these staff, just the commitment, and so really thinking, well, I'll bring this up a little bit late, but what are we asking them to commit to? Like, would you commit to something to be, leave your home or your family or your friends or your, and be gone for this long period of time if you are at an overnight camp, and commit to that? Like, from an initial conversation, that's really a hard ask, I think. And I think we're starting to realize more and more what kind of hard ask that is. And so how can we, which this is the solution part, like how can we work around that? And then also staff just wanting, because they're doing so many other things in the summer besides having a job, maybe it's taking classes, or they have that family reunion or that trip, but just the flexibility that staff are looking for, that that like back in my day, I worked all summer and I didn't think twice about it because
That's
I didn't have
right.
I didn't really have anything else to do necessarily. So, and then I think a good thing that's coming that I think that's different is we're really paying more attention to the whole staff member, the whole human that's coming to us versus just the person who's coming as a potential employee. There's more to it than that. Stay tuned.
Well, that was a great start. Thank you very much. We're just going to take a quick break here to hear from our sponsor. Camp leaders, do you often find yourself bogged down with bookkeeping, accounting, and other back office tasks, taking precious time away from what matters most, your campers? Imagine a solution that frees up your staff to focus on creating impactful and memorable experiences for your campers. That's where Bolin comes in. Bolin offers comprehensive accounting back office solutions designed specifically for camps. Our tech-enabled team handles everything from payroll and bookkeeping to financial reporting, compliance, expense management, spend control, and more, allowing your staff to passionately pursue your number one purpose. With Bolin, you can streamline your camp's financial operations, reduce stress, and ensure your team is free to make a lasting impact in campers' lives. It's time to win back your time and work with a financial partner that truly understands camps. Whether you're a for-profit, not-for-profit, overnight, or day camp, Bolin has a solution for you. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. The report is yours whether you sign up or not. Let Bolin take care of your accounting needs so you can focus on what truly matters, your campers. A special offer from UltraCamp for Camp Code listeners. Get ready for next season's staff recruiting with the Camp Experience Wheel, a powerful tool to prevent burnout, boost retention, and make sure your staff feels supported. Download it for free at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Tired of juggling multiple systems? UltraCamp offers a platform that simplifies your work by combining all aspects of camp management into one seamless solution. UltraCamp brings everything you need into one easy-to-use platform. Plan schedules and activities with just a few clicks. Easily organize, schedule, and automate your communications, register and track campers easily, manage payments and donations seamlessly. Get back to what you love. UltraCamp helps you spend less time on admin tasks and more time creating unforgettable camp experiences. Ready to see if UltraCamp is the perfect fit? Schedule your free personalized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. All right, so we're back. That's how things have changed, or some of the things that have changed. What should we be doing differently to meet these needs? Ruby, we'll start with you.
I don't have answers. Again, speaking fresh from seeing hundreds of volunteers flooding into this area who are feeling compelled to help, like we do that at camp too, right? Like, and one of the things that's been really interesting about the response to Helene is that everybody has a story about something they love about this region, about Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, this mountaintop, this place, this bar, this restaurant. Like, everybody has those stories, and we create those stories at camp too. And if you are not in a position to think about, because of all of your responsibilities as a director, to think about the deep, deep connection that our staff often make to the place. And sometimes the place is really just the community of people versus the physical place. However that place is defined for you, make sure you're leaning into that story and reminding staff, returners, about that connection and love and care for that place. And that's what's going to motivate them to say, hey, like, can I come help out on that alumni weekend or that work weekend? Or, hey, I have a couple weeks free off of work and there's no place I would rather be to recharge than at camp. And if you don't have the brain space to think about it, tap some of your staff, tap some of your alums, get them to tell you some of those stories and memories, and get, those pictures and those stories being told on your social media, on your blog, just to get the wheels cranking, to remind folks why, like, that deep fire within them that gets them so excited about working at camp. We have to sometimes reignite that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, Gab, what about you? What should we be doing differently to meet the needs of today's staff or potential staff?
I think, what Kim said, she said, treating the whole human, and our staff are different, because our world's different. So that's to be expected. But there's like, it's also for the better, I think, for our organizations. The how we deal with breaks during the day has changed within our camp. How we share workload has changed. How we provide time off has changed. Our flexibility has changed. So I think there's that reality that is needed. And I think it's for the better. And I think about when I was a staff member, I think these would have been very useful, shifts in our organization. And the number one thing that new staff members have said to me why they chose Waro, it's for two things. One, because what our mission is, and two, because of what other staff members have said about us. And I don't think that they're saying things that are drastically, wildly different than any other camp. But I think they feel confident to say things because we listen to them and we make these micro adjustments, and then we're transparent about those adjustments. And I think that means that I think our staff feel like they have somebody in their corner that's listening to them, that's caring about them, and they're happy to share that with other people. So, for me, those two components are important, but that we are treating the whole person, and I think that's hard for a lot of us. I'm also still learning about boundaries and what am I taking on that is the role of the employer versus, somebody that just wants to be a little bit of a maybe camp mama bear, which I sometimes struggle a little bit with. But the truth is that's okay. Like, you're learning as you go, you figure it out as you go. But I'm bringing in past alumni experts that are there to help guide me, to help, set some limitations. We even have a staff member that, within her own university, does peer counseling, and so we've brought that to our organization. But we have very clear guidelines on what qualifies for the peer counseling time, and she's helped develop that with me because I didn't know what those limitations were. So the whole person for me is it's really important, and your mission and allowing your staff members to talk about it.
Thanks so much. Okay, Kim, what about you?
So, oh my, so many things. I've been writing fast and furious because so many ideas coming in my head. But I think a couple things. One is that, and I think Ruby, you touched on this with the compelling stories that are coming out of Western North Carolina, and the different locations and places and what people are connected to, right? So I've always said connection builds community. And so how are we building community with our staff from the very beginning, from the moment that they have any sort of interaction with us, whether it's on a website, it's on a social media post, it's through another person, it's at a table at a college campus or school campus. And then how are we also inviting our potential staff members into being not just part of the community, but a vital part of the camp community and the mission that we're doing. So if they don't feel like they're part of a mission, they don't feel like they are important in how things work from day to day and the outcomes that come out, then it's going to be a struggle. They have to feel that, and that's not an easy thing to do. And so one of the things that comes to my mind is we're getting ready through the American Camp Association to have the staffing summit that's going to be, I'm going to do a shameless plug for this. It may be after this
Love it.
gets broadcasted or whatever, but you can still there's ways to have access to the recordings because it's a virtual conference. We decided to stay virtual on purpose because we wanted to keep it accessible. Because the camps who are really struggling with finding staff are, would have a hard time going to a 3-day in-person event, and the cost and the travel and the time and all of that. So we are actually modeling for camps about thinking about how to keep things accessible also for your staff, which I'd like to go into a little bit more in a second. But thinking about really every year when we choose, this is our 4th year with the Staffing Summit, we pick an anchor quote, a quote that kind of anchors the event and then anchors all the conversations that we have for the year after, whether they're virtual conversations or going from conference to conference conversations. And this year's anchor quote is sort of a mishmash of various quotes, so I'm giving credit to various people, is one way out is in. So one way out of the staffing challenges that we're seeing, and I truly believe it has to do with taking a really hard and honest look at who your organization, the culture of your organization, and all that goes into that. So if you're willing to take that hard look, then you start to see some things like, oh, wow, maybe I'm not doing something the way that is really super welcoming or accessible to the staff members that I'd like to hire, right? And so just really thinking, so that's what our quote is going to be. That's where the conversation is going to be headed all year, is one way out is in. And also, I think this plays into, I hear so much, and I think of you, Ruby, because you work with and you train lots and lots of lifeguards. And so many people say, oh, I still need to hire 10 lifeguards. And I'm like, what about 10 people that you can train to be lifeguards, right? I mean, and so thinking about that's looking on the inside of the person for the character that they're bringing, not for the skill that they're bringing. And I know it's hard to sometimes find the classes and the training to get people certified. But if you have the people who want to do it, you can figure out a way. And my friend Ruby does a really amazing job, and she has like connections all over the place that can help you with those, like, getting those classes. But so one way out is in. And believe it or not, there are camps out there that have either have hired, like they're at capacity for the number of staff that they wanted to have, or there are camps now that are showing a surplus. I'm not saying all camps, but there are camps out there who had, really great summers this past summer. And I think it has a lot to do with because of the culture that they have from the very beginning. Yeah. So I'll stop there.
I want to add
And
to that is
yeah.
1,000% what I saw this summer as well. I heard from more camps, yeah, actually this was kind of like a normal staffing summer. We were doing okay. And then the camps that were really still struggling with staffing, there were culture things going on. So yeah.
But it's a privilege to be at camp too, right? Like there's actual like privileges at camp, depending on your location, but you might have gorgeous lake or beautiful biking trails or just access to a theme park. Like there's certain things that have privileges. There's friendships, there's memories, there's all these things. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily, I do think that is what can attract people. Your mission, I think, is number one, truthfully. I know for us, that's definitely what works for us, but keeping them is these things. And this year we had a couple of staff that we didn't want to reapply this year, and we adjusted our hiring thing, and they sort of self-selected not to come back. But we did, not ironically, but naively, I was like, oh, I'm never going to see them again. And then, they called and said, hey, we'd love to come for a weekend to help out. And I was like, of course, camp is a privilege. And I was like, oh, thanks, but we're good. Like we've got this. And our standards are higher, and the staff that are here feel that, and they know that those people didn't come back, and it wasn't nothing that was acrimonious. It was just, this wasn't the place for them. They wanted different things out of their summer, which is completely fine. Like, you're allowed to have that as well, but camp is a privilege. And we have to help our staff celebrate that, but we also have to treat them with respect with the type of staff members we are hiring back. And to your point, Kim, with the lifeguard piece, Jackie, who's my co-director slash mother, also years ago decided that our counseling and training program, you had to have your bronze med. That was base. You had to have that. And then not only would we would have a beach NLS course on, at our camp that we'd host for other camps to come to. But if one of our staff wanted to take that, we paid for that course and they got a bonus. And I remember her talking to the other owner, and she was like, this is going to be way too expensive. This is going to, we have like 15 lifeguards on camp, at least 15 lifeguards all the time, constantly, because of this program. And we have lifeguards, like I never am missing a lifeguard. So I think there's things that you can do that's honoring your staff, that's saying, we respect you. And I remember another camp director saying, well, you're going to pay for this and you're going to give them a bonus. So then next year they could just go work in it anywhere. And Jackie was like, yeah, and they're kids. So that's great. I'm happy that they do that, but they never did. They're so grateful. They come back and they can go work at a pool throughout the year. I don't know. So I think there's things that we can do within our organization, but our staff see it too. Like, and they do see that it can be a privilege, So yeah, let's talk about this some more.
And I do think that what we're seeing are the camps that have been successful in the last summer have shifted, have made those adjustments, have taken into account what young people are dealing with today and how they can support the whole person, as Kim said. So I think they're the ones that are having success for sure. So we're going to end with one final question today. So many directors are telling me that they are struggling to find enough staff. So there are some who've got it all good and they're doing well, but some are still struggling. So why is that the case, in case you haven't had a chance to fully answer that yet? And what are some ideas on where we can actually find people who may want to work at camp? Kim, let's start with you this time.
This is something that I've been putting a lot of thought to, actually, trying to figure out how we can maybe create some new pipelines of people who wouldn't necessarily know about camp, because as Gabs, you mentioned, it is a privilege, and for some people they never had that privilege or opportunity to go to camp as a camper, right? So how would they even know that camp is something to do as a staff member? I entered the camp scene as a staff member. Like I didn't go to camp myself, and so I had no context of what that was. I just was very fortunate to have a guidance counselor in my teacher education program when I was an undergrad, who asked me point blank, like, what are you doing this summer that's going to help you be a better teacher? And I snarkily said, I'm going to work at the same fast food restaurant I did last summer. And he literally pointed me in the direction of summer camp. And so we need people who are influencing our young emerging leaders wherever they are, because not everybody's on a college campus or even a 2-year campus. They're in much different places. I think this is another difference of kind of, we think our people are on college campuses. They don't have to be on college campuses or university campuses, but trying to figure out how can we speak to more people and let them know that this is an opportunity, and how can we remove some of those barriers? Because even like if you wanted to work at camp and you needed to get your lifeguarding and nobody was really helping you, like for some people, the cost of just paying for the lifeguarding class before they get to camp and waiting till the end of the summer to get reimbursed for that is too much, right? And so, like, how can we remove some of those barriers? So I'm super excited. Have just in a roundabout way. Actually, it was from the first Summer Camp Pros Facebook group that you all started. And there was a person who posted something, let's say about 18 months ago. It was right before the summer of 2023, like February, March timeframe. And she is working for a nonprofit, and she put out there on the Facebook group, she says, hey, if anyone is still looking to hire camp staff, I might be able to help you out. And of course, this person just got inundated, right? I mean, as you can imagine, every camp was like, pick me. And so I saw that and I was like, there's a story here and I want to get to the bottom of what this story is. So I reached out to her behind, it's on Facebook, and come to find out we had one connection in common, who is actually camp owner director of a camp in Western North Carolina. And this person was experiencing the homelessness as a young person, and when she was in her like senior year of high school and also into college, and she's now in college and she has her housing, she has food, she has a support system, she's getting paid, she's doing work that's meaningful, and she's already in September wondering, what am I going to do come, I have fall break and winter break and spring break, and then I have this whole time span of summer. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so she just starts Googling like summer jobs with housing or, residence opportunities. And she found summer camp that way. And she ended up working for this particular camp for 3 years consecutive. And now she's advocating she works for an organization called Schoolhouse Connection that helps foster children and, and people who are experiencing homelessness, have opportunities and so they can see success. And so through her, Jordan, we're working on trying to open this connection. And I just made a new connection today through at UGA. So there's different places on campus, but thinking about if you do run an overnight camp, this is a golden opportunity for people who are experiencing homelessness or who are unhoused to have a steady job and a place to stay and live for an extended period of time, if we're willing to look at the barrier to help remove some of the barriers for them. So that may be that they need to work like a shoulder season, because maybe schools sometimes get out so early or they start later, and so they may need to work extra, right? Or they may they come with a bunch of stuff because they don't have a house that they're permanently living in. So they're bringing all their things with them. Well, could you possibly offer to help them store some of their things? Or could you help like direct book travel or those certifications that we talked about, all of that kind of. So it's really opened my eyes, and not just for the people who are experiencing homelessness, but for all staff. And we know so many people are turning to international hiring, and I'm not saying anything against that at all. I just, how can we also open some more pipelines here in domestically that we can, there's plenty of people here. It's just finding them and helping remove the barriers so that they can come to camp, or that they even know that camp exists. So that's one, and we're Project Real Job we're really digging in onto in this, and I think we're making some good strides. So that will become maybe a little bit more well known as we continue forward. Also, I think just through the work that we've done, GAP programs, students who go on GAP programs, they have conferences for those, and those are the kind of kids that you want to have working at camp, because they're used to independent living, they're used to working as a team and doing all kinds of things. And so exploring, and we actually have a blog on the PRJ website through ACA about that. And then we're having somebody speak at the staffing summit at the end of this month, who is going to tell us about like how to connect with semester-long programs and how those students may also be good camp counselors. So they're out there. We just have to do a little bit more uncovering and be willing to do that work, and to, like I said, remove some barriers that are making it hard, that people wouldn't even consider camp because they just think it's not something that they could even entertain that idea. So how's that?
That's a great start to the question. I don't know that we
Bravo.
need to hear from anybody else, but we'll try. So Ruby, let's head to you next.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's so good, Kim. Thanks for sharing all of that. And I would just echo, the non-traditional pipelines are are the things that I've seen be really successful in the last few years. My rafting staff this summer at camp included a couple parents that was part of their plan for paying their child's tuition. And it's not ridiculous here in Western North Carolina that there are going to be people who are very comfortable rafting on a river, on a class 2 river, who also send their kids to camp. So whether it's parents, retirees, my dad just retired from teaching this last year. And you know what he's doing this school year? Substitute teaching. So like some of these people need stuff to do. And again, yes, that looks different from hiring a 17 or 18-year-old. Like there are going to be some different challenges. And I think we have to be open to that. And so, yeah, the other thing that you mentioned that I just, kind of broadly want to echo is the idea of really thinking about where does your network expand to, and where are those lines that we haven't tugged on yet? You know, we tend to, when we need staff, we ask our staff to ask their friends, and we ask our campers' parents to ask, around their neighbors. And that's great. Those are not wrong. Keep exercising those paths. But also, like, the grocery store you go to and the person who's your favorite checker outer, like, and you've been talking to them about their kids for years. Do their kids want to come work at camp? That maybe this is that summer for them. Like really think about the people in your life and who have you not talked to about the opportunity at camp. And I think that's how you're going to see some doors open up.
Love that. Thanks, Ruby. All right, Gab, what else have you got?
I'll squeeze in one little piece if I can out of this. The last drop from the lime. For me, this year we've actually reached out to, so we're in a touristy town, like a lot of camps are. And one of our tourist attractions during the winter time is skiing. So we have 2 ski hills, and we approached them because it was quite a beautiful agreement or a partnership, is that the ski hills had opened up a new restaurant that they put a lot of energy into renovating part of their chalet, and they put it in a gorgeous restaurant, but they couldn't keep their staff because they didn't have a full year position, and they didn't have full year for their chefs. And we were like, or maybe those kitchen people would like to come work for us. They get maybe a month off in September, and then they can start back up with y'all when the colors of the trees start changing in October. So looking to other businesses that are local, this was a partnership that for me is such a benefit for all of us, but something that I had never, I looked for out of desperation, everybody. Full transparency, real talk. I was desperate to find, and I was knocking on doors, and somebody said, hey, check out the ski hills. They're in the same position as you are, but reversed. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So local and making those connections, you never know who you're gonna meet, and you might be helping that business out as well.
Thank you. And Ruby, did you hear the y'all that came out of her mouth in there? So
warmed my heart.
Well, I've been saying for a while. I've been saying for a while now, so I hope it sounds authentic.
Yeah, and I think it's that thinking outside the box. We talk about our industry as people who think outside the box, but do we always? And so really pushing ourselves to those of us who've grown up in the industry and who've been in it for decades. We're so used to how things used to be, and you grew your own staff and you hired the odd friend of those staff members just to fill your roster, but times have changed, and we need to be flexible, and we need to put in the effort to figure out how to reach more people where they're at, because I think it's a very beneficial relationship. We can help them and they can help us. So yeah. Anything more anybody wants to say before we head into Gab's famous recap? All right. Gab, are you ready?
Yeah. I was just in it for the ride, and I was like, oh right, there's this other segment.
You look very surprised.
I was like, oh right, there's a recap. It's okay, I'm organized. I got it. I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so what has changed over the past 5 years? It can be categorized into two columns. One, so many options for our staff to apply. Where do I go? Where do I put my time? Things pulling at them left, right, and center. A lot of options, and camp pros are perhaps a little bit defeated because things have changed and it's hard, and what we've been traditionally doing hasn't been working. So what are some things we should be keeping in mind? Let's lean into Kim's the whole human is what we should be keeping in mind. Our staff are different. That is fine. Let's embrace that. And what can we do at camp, and how can we attract them? Well, one of the ways that we can do that is telling our stories. By the way, everybody, if you want to tell your camp story, you can go to thankscamp.org. It's a whole marketing plan on helping you tell your camp story and helping staff tell your story, and as well as alumni. And they can flex their muscles and be like, thanks to camp, I'm now a doctor. Directly because of this camp, I am now very successful. And, it's very, very helpful. Another way is one way out is in. Let's hold on to that, because we want to hire people, not skills. And camp is a privilege. So those are the things we want to keep in mind. Some of the things what we can actually actively do is check out universities and our unhoused students that are perhaps looking for a place to stay. Camp is a wonderful place because it's not only living, a lot of the times it's also you get fed. There's GAP programs. And as Ruby likes to say, unconditional paths. We know that Ruby likes to do those things. Sometimes it's scary for the rest of us, but dip your toe in it, my friends. It is worth it. Ruby is a testament to that. And that is the recap for today.
The recap of the shameless plugs that we've been doing.
Shameless plugs recap. Yeah.
Thanks to camp in there too. That's great. Well, we would love to hear from you. Please let us know any topics you'd like us to discuss or guests that you recommend we have on the show, like the brilliant Kim Aycock or Ruby, who's joined us for today, or any guests at all that you recommend that we have on the show, any great leadership training tips that you'd like to share. We would love to hear from you. And if you found our podcast to be useful, we would love it if you could leave us a rating and review in your podcasting app. So here's how you can get in touch with each of us individually. Kim, where can they find you?
At Kim Aycock, AYCOCK.com, or on Instagram, Kim_Aycock_. That's where all the Kimspiration happens. And
Nice.
Today's Monday. This is the day I give my Monday motivation / Kimspiration. And I just realized I have not made my video for today. So I need to do that.
When you were saying that, I was like, I haven't seen today's. I'll have to go back and look.
Yes. And it's a good one. It's so good. It actually plays into what we just talked about. So
Oh, excellent. Perfect.
You're probably distracted by the Canadian Thanksgiving, so I will forgive you.
All right, thanks, Kim. Ruby, where can they find you?
You can email me, ruby@rubyoutdoors.com. And fun fact, we talked a lot about lifeguards today, so I'm going to throw this out there. We are seeing more and more folks taking lifeguarding class who are not prepared for how hard it's going to be, because it's not easy. And so we developed training plans, and those are available on my website. So if you go to rubyoutdoors.com, go to the blog, you can find some training plans that are free to distribute to your staff to give them some support. And this is my shameless plug, and to get folks prepared. So another way to support your staff. Rubyoutdoors.com. Check out rubyoutdoors.com. Thanks.
That's so
Thanks,
cool.
Ruby. And Gab?
I also like to say that our shameless plugs are directly supporting camp professionals. So we're so cute with our shameless plugs. You can get in touch with me at info@waro.com, OUAREAU.com, or you can check out where I work at waro.com.
Thank you. You can check out where I work at gocamp.pro or email me directly at beth@gocamp.pro. And for our next podcast, we're going to be diving further into the hiring process with part 2 of our discussion with all of these brilliant women. And before we wrap up, our final segment on each podcast is the best practice for leadership training. And again, we would love to hear some of your memorable moments or your most effective tips, and you can just send them our way. But this week's best practice is from Ruby.
Yay. So I want to share something that I know has been said on this podcast before, but it has come back around to me recently. So during the summer, I kind of bop around. I'm like a person with a certification. So I drive buses. And so there's a camp that I drove buses for them like 3 nights this summer, maybe not even. And just a couple weeks ago, I got a thank you note from them, written, thanks for your time. So it was very lovely. And it's like, I mean, yeah, I got paid to do those things and it's kind of just helping people out. But the fact that they took the time to write that note really meant a lot and makes me go, yeah, I would do that again. So think about who some of the helpers are that are in your world that help make camp happen. And if you haven't given them a direct thank you that they can like hold on to and put on their refrigerator, that sometime in the next couple months, that'll be really appreciated.
It's who gets mail anymore, really. So it's very special
Mhm.
to get something like that in the mail and not just an email saying thank you. Thanks, Ruby and Kim and Gab for today. Camp Code is part of the Go Camp Pro podcast network, and you can check out all of our other podcasts at gocamp.pro/podcasts. So thanks for joining us on this journey as we work to give our campers and our staff and our families and our camps the best possible experiences. We are very excited for all this new season will bring, and we're very grateful to Ruby and Kim for joining us today. Thanks for listening, friends.